It's an honor to have you with us on the Dean Show. Thank you for coming on and being with us.
My pleasure. You've been doing some great work, and I'm only so happy to be a part of it, to share in some of the blessings that are there for you in getting this word out to the people.
Thank you very much. So our primary message is Islam, calling the people to surrender and to submit to the Creator of the heavens and earth and not His creation. And this is one of the most basic things that the people procrastinate with, finding out who their Lord is. And then even some who've found out who their Lord is, procrastinating on doing the good that He's invited them to do. We want to talk about this, Sheikh. What keeps people from doing and putting off? The majority of people you talk to, yeah, they know they got to change. They know they got to do good, but they don't do the good. Why is this, Sheikh?
I would say probably the main reason is laziness. You know, the reality of life usually doesn't sink in until tragedy comes. You know, this is when you find people, okay, tell me about it. You know, that's the way it usually is, isn't it? You know, because you're busy, you got so many other things happening. You don't really want to make that effort because it requires effort. You know, it just doesn't come. It's not a silver spoon feeding. No, you have to go out and make an effort to get this knowledge. So people, prefer to take it easy, just take things as they go, until calamity strikes. When that strikes, then you find them waking up and coming around and say, okay, let me see that book you were telling me about. Let me get that tape. Let me see this. Can I, give me something. I need something now. Reality is that they need it all along, but there are too many distractions, especially in life in the West, North America. It's about distractions, isn't it? That's the whole thing, the way by which Satan just diverts people. That's basically what happened with Adam and Eve, isn't it? They were in a good situation. He comes now, distraction. It's about the tree of life. Allah didn't call it that. But that was to catch their minds, get them off thinking about something else and then forgetting what was the original message. Don't eat from that tree. Mm-hmm. That was the original message, So that's what's happening in the life. People are not conscious of what's going on because they're so busy and distracted with other things. As Allah said in the Quran, talking about the compilation of wealth, al-hakumut takasur. People are just caught up so much in gathering the wealth of this world, they're lost as to really what the purpose of life is about. They don't take that minute out to stop and think, why am I here? Am I just like everybody else? The other creatures, the cows and the cattle, the sheep, and just eating, procreating, and then dying one day? Is that all? Is that all that life is about? So it's about, trying to get people to stop for a minute and to think. Because once a person starts thinking, then hey, yeah, really, they start to wake up. But the world, the way things are set up, keeps them too busy.
How about now, you got somebody paying attention to us now, and he's thinking, you know what? When I die, I'll deal with it. When a calamity strikes, I'll deal with it. What's the dangers about this? Why should somebody, and what is the first thing that a person should really concentrate on?
Well, I'd say that, of course, it's always easy to say, when that happens, I'll deal with it, But the reality is that when it happens, you can't deal with it. You end up not being able to cope. Well, sometimes it depends on what you've been doing in your life, that when that calamity comes, God does leave a door open for you. Other times, hey, the kind of life you've been living, there isn't any door there. It comes and you see what happens to people when calamity strikes. They go mad. So mad, their values are so twisted and warped that they do all kinds of crazy things. I remember reading an article about a man, this was during one of the declines in the stock market. This guy, there was a big drop in the US. The guy had $8 million invested. In a matter of hours, he lost like $5 million. That guy just lost it. He went and bought himself a Kalashnikov, went into the stock, the office, and mowed down the manager and mowed down his dealer, and then turned the gun on himself and killed himself. And the man had $3 million. Still, yeah, he lost 5. That's a big loss, but hey, you got $3 million. So the whole perspectives are gone.
Yeah.
So saying I'll deal with it when it comes, don't be sure you're going to be able to deal with it. That's fooling yourself, really.
Where do they start now? Okay, they say, well, where do I go? Okay, all the person knows is work, relations with, his friends, wife, or illegitimate relationship with women, having a good time, entertainment. But we got their attention for now. Where should he start? What should he start doing first?
Well, first and foremost, he needs to come to grips with God. That's the starting point. Do I believe in God? Of course, you say, yeah, I believe in God. That's the norm. Most people say, I believe in God. But the question is, do you really believe in God? Because if you believe in God, then you would be trying to find your purpose. Because the idea, and this is a common misconception, which again is an excuse, a way out.
Yeah.
People say, well, God made the world, and this world is too simplistic, too small, too insignificant for God to be busy himself with you and I. Who are we? Like ants, specks of dust, in the universe. Yeah. So why would God bother himself with us? No. This is a nice cop-out, right? Yeah, there's a God, but he's not busy. He's not bothered about me and my life. No. Well, the point is that once you say there is a God, then that God, you must believe he's superior to you. If you think he's just like you and I, then, no point carrying on the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? But if you understand what God is, who God is, in the sense of creator, sustainer of this whole universe, then you have to understand that wisdom is an absolute necessity. When we talk about understanding who God is, then we got to understand that he is ultimately wise. And now you, as a human being, right, if somebody said to you, listen, hey, there's this man who set up a factory, produce certain goods, etc., and put an ad in the paper for people to come work in this factory, and he invites them all down, hires them all up, and then he doesn't tell them what to do in the factory. He expects them to just go in the factory, do what they're supposed to do, and the factory runs fine, he's making his profits. No, they're going to go in there, guy hasn't told us what to do, let's go down to the cafeteria, drink some coffee, have a chat, etc. It's not going to work. And we would have to say, that is a dumb businessman. Yeah. That guy was a fool. An idiot.
Yeah.
So, if we can accept that on a human plane, that wisdom requires that you must inform those who you hire to do this job so that they can do it, then surely the creator of this universe didn't create us and expect us to go find our way by ourselves without telling us what we're supposed to be doing in this life. He didn't leave us without informing us.
So tell us now, what is the purpose of man's life? What have we been created for? What have we been created to do? Pile up wealth, have children, families? What is our purpose, Sheikh?
Well, our purpose in life, as it's stated very clearly in the Quran, is to worship God. That's the fundamental purpose. Then this purpose is relative to ourselves, first and foremost, because God doesn't need our worship. He is himself. He's who he is. He is the creator, sustainer of the universe, whether we all worship or whether we don't worship. So the worship thing, in terms of purpose, is for ourselves. That worship enables us to reach the peak of humanity for which God created us, to be fulfilled in this world. That we, utilize all of the abilities that God has given us in the best way possible. That we benefit others, we benefit ourselves, we benefit the world that we're in. You know, we're part of that beneficial process. That's where we're supposed to be. And worshiping God is what helps us to get there.
Now, would a person be okay if he did his daily activities as he's doing, and then, you know what, he agreed with you and he says, okay, I'll do the worship one day a week or one day a month or during Ramadan, or if you're a Muslim? Is this what we're talking about?
No. I mean, that's, if it's not doing it as he has instructed 5 times a day.
So it's not according to my desires.
Now, if it's according to my desires, then you're doing your own religion.
Yeah.
That's your own thing.
Yeah.
That's not God's thing, right? God's thing has been quite clearly specified. This is what he wants. You know, Ramadan, fasting, and again, all of these things he wants from us for our betterment, because he doesn't need it. Our fasting doesn't affect him. It doesn't benefit him. It benefits ourselves. You know, our giving of charity to the needy, the poor, it's for us. It's for human beings. Our making Hajj, commemorating Abraham's preparedness to sacrifice his own son at God's command. That's all for us. That's all for us. We benefit from it. So that purpose for ourselves, worshiping God, this is in order that we be the best that we can of humanity, be the best human being we can, fulfilling all of the potential that Allah has created us with.
So now, for instance, someone agrees with you, just like someone, you tell them, okay, they need to get fit, and you describe of how they need to work out, they need to, you know, lose a little body weight, but they need a system. Where is all this that you're talking about? How can someone achieve this without doing it according to his own desires?
Well, this is what we said, that, you know, a person has to take time and effort and investigate. Look at the various systems out there. See what they have to offer. See the rationale behind them. And I believe, you believe, that Islam is the answer. Islam is ready. We believe Islam is the right way, not just because we happen to be Muslims, you know, and so naturally you have your own bias for your thing, but because Islam has evidence for what it asks you to do. It makes sense. It's practical. It matches life. It's natural. As some people call it, the natural way.
The natural way.
That's it. It's natural. And that's what the Prophet said. Allah created every child in that natural way. But it's the environment, the parents, relatives, the family, that diverts the child from that natural way. So Islam brings people back to the natural way.
If you are seeking the truth, what are some of the qualities that you should look for in one that is to be your creator? Because you have people that are claiming that this statue, this monkey, this cow, a man is God. What should the human being, and how should he identify who his Lord is? So then he can follow this plan and purpose that God Almighty, the Creator, has laid out for him.
Well, of course, knowing who God is, we know intrinsically, inside of ourselves, who God is. People might have convinced us that somehow God became these other things, you know, and God can be found within these other things.
Yeah.
But reality, inside ourselves, we know who God is. We know that God isn't born. Because if he's born, it means that there was a time when he wasn't. And then how does he get born?
Yeah.
Who brings him into this life? It has to be somebody else there to cause him to be. Then that person who caused him to be, or that being that caused him to be, is greater than he. He wasn't able to bring himself in. So, obviously that is superior. So therefore, when we talk about God, God can't be within the world of beings that come into being. Beings that were not, and then they became. They didn't exist, and then they existed. Those beings God can't be found among those beings. He is obviously outside of that whole process of coming into being. God is, as the basic characteristic, is the one before whom there was none. There was nothing before him. He's the first. The Alpha and the Omega. He's the last. There's nothing after him. He is without beginning, without end. He isn't born. He doesn't die. He doesn't have needs. So once you deal with a human being, he has needs. Jesus, for example, was circumcised on the eighth day. You don't go and circumcise God. It's not common sense here, And then, he's drinking milk. He needs nappies, and hey, this is not God, But of course, what happens is that when people are raised in an environment of that thought, you don't stop to think. I mean, when you see, for example, Hindus and their rites of worship, when they worship their gods, right? There's a series of rituals that they do. Among the rituals is that they ring a bell and wake up the god in the morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, wake him up. And they take him out and give him a bath and set him in his place, and you pour milk over his head and you put food in front of people just do it because that's how it's always been done. They don't stop to think for a minute, hey, you're waking up your God? I mean, he sleeps, he doesn't know what's going on here, you have to wake him up in the morning, It's just the same thing. You take a man as God, it's the same thing. This man was born and he died. He had needs, he suffered. This is not God. These are the creatures of God. So these attributes we say of weakness or deficiencies, etc., these are not suitable to be attributed to God. God is beyond all of that. So inside ourselves, we do have an idea what makes sense relative to God. We do have an idea. But people, due to how they're raised, the information that they've been fed, not hearing any alternatives, get used to certain practices and customs and beliefs and ideas. And you find them believing and doing the weirdest things.
Yeah. You had mentioned Jesus, peace be upon him. What do we actually, for the non-Muslims who actually heard you say Jesus, and some people attribute him being God, what do we actually believe who is Jesus?
Oh, we believe that Jesus was a messenger of God. And we worship the God of Jesus. Who Jesus worshipped. I mean, if you just stopped and thought for a minute, who was Jesus worshiping? Because it's recorded in the Gospels, despite all of the other issues about the Gospels, we put those aside. We just say it's mentioned there that Jesus worshipped God. So who was he worshiping? If he and God are one, then who was he worshiping? Himself. You've got problems here.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And then the other thing when it comes to worshiping, if you just stop